guys, my name is Attorney Walter Rufnoth III. We're going to be doing a fourth stimulus update real quick. The fourth stimulus check update, latest news and important dates. This is from Marca, M-A-R-C-A Lifestyle News. I like to get articles and read them and then give my input on them because I like to compare a lot of things as to what I see based upon other articles that I've read, because you will usually see a web of connecting facts, and then you'll be able to see some of the holes that are starting throughout all these things that are problems. But let's go through this one. I haven't read it before. Here we go. Fourth stimulus check update. This was produced on, 2021. It was 07/20/2021. Okay. Following the success of the first three stimulus checks that were sent out to Americans to help provide support in the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic, there have been repeated calls for a fourth stimulus check to be launched and sent out to low-income and medium-income households. There has been a petition with over 2 million signatures, and various politicians have also urged President Joe Biden to consider working with the IRS for a fourth stimulus check. So we talked about change.org, which is the whole petition thing. We talked about the letter that those politicians, there's actually multiple Democratic politicians that have submitted letters at this point. And, it's a letter to the White House. You go to the very end of it, there's a bunch of Democrat-based politicians who have signed, stuff like that. So the bottom line is this, and it's important for you to understand, everybody is pushing Joe Biden, President Biden, to produce some sort of fourth stimulus check. We know Jen Psaki has basically outlined that he does not feel that that is the best means of getting people back to work in the short term to make the country competitive in the long term, which is short speak for political speak for he doesn't want to do it. And he may be open to it, but he is unlikely to do it. So that's okay. That's okay. Let's keep reading. We'll go through this and kind of get through this whole thing. However, Biden has left the future of stimulus check 4 in the hands of Congress. He has repeatedly said that he's open to the ideas and that he will listen to whatever Congress comes up with, but it seems the president won't take the lead on this fourth round of stimulus checks. So it's not really the president that's supposed to come out with this fourth stimulus check. But if at any point he said, I would be open to everybody getting an additional $1,000, I would be open to everybody getting an additional $2,000, then all of a sudden Congress would magically start working on that. But there is a looming problem, and that's that under the current federal budget, the government would run out of money in October/November. We're not really sure exactly which one right now, but it looks like October or November. And what that means is that he's looking at that going, well, we can spend money on roads of the people, we should spend money on the roads. And that's an oversimplification, but that's what's kind of happening here. He's saying we need to rebuild this whole system so that people can use these roads to go back to work. The only problem with that is that if you push everybody to go back to work too quickly, then what happens is, let's be honest here, people then essentially don't have a steady footing on, a career and having that job last over a significant period, because we've now rushed them back into an industry that may not be their original industry, or back into an industry where there's still a COVID problem, such as the Delta variant. One of the things that makes me worry is that, if you go through the alphabet, alpha, beta, yada, yada, there's all these potential variants. And the problem with that is that they can just keep coming out with variants to keep everybody home. And the problem with that is that you essentially ruin any industry that is a storefront industry. And what that means is that the only industries that will succeed are internet-based industries, which are big, massive business industries. Which means that everybody's stuck at home, and everybody's stuck in a situation where they can't really do things like they used to, and people start losing their safety parameters, and they start being fearful because they're low on money, and then all of a sudden they'll start trading freedoms and rights for a little bit of stimulus money. So Biden's leaving this up to the legislators, and the legislators are not being very actionable on creating a fourth stimulus. Who will get a $600 stimulus check? This is the next part of it. Some Americans have already qualified for a fourth stimulus check, those in California, right? We all know what's going on there. There, Governor Gavin Newsom signed a $100 billion plan that includes $600 stimulus checks for state residents. About 2/3 of Californians were expected to qualify for that. Now, so, the people that can vote are getting a $600 check. I don't know if you caught that, but like, the people that are set up easy peasy to vote for California, Mr. Newsom could potentially not be the governor anymore. What's happening there is essentially that he's paying everybody $600. That's interesting. I mean, there are the regulations in here as to what they can or cannot, yada yada, but a lot of the people who he's seeking the vote from potentially getting a $600 little bump. Now, with growing calls for a nationwide fourth stimulus check, that $600 figure has been mentioned as a possible amount for the next round of federal stimulus payments. But the politicians need to agree to the idea of a fourth stimulus check first. So we went from $1,200 down to $600, up to $1,400, and basically, you know what I mean? It almost seems like the amounts that we're getting are more political based as opposed to like financial necessity based. So think about this. Okay, so think about this. If Trump came out with $1,200 for the first one, what was Biden's first one going to be? It was going to be more. Right? It's going to be $1,400. But remember what that all goes back to. It was supposed to be $2,000. Trump came out with $600, and then Biden piggybacked onto that with essentially $1,400, totaling $2,000. But Biden was supposed to come out with $2,000. Now, my point to this whole thing is that it appears from what I'm seeing that all this stuff is political as to how much we're actually receiving as opposed to based on need. And I think that is not a good sign as to how our politics or the political system works in this country. Next portion. Will there be a fourth stimulus check? At this moment in time, Congress has not started working on legislation for a fourth stimulus check. Even if there has been rumors of an imminent announcement, this isn't actually the case. So I'm just going to say the name. There are channels, LA Late, Blind to Billionaire, stuff like that come out with all these updates about like, yeah, they're really pushing it. Yeah, it's really amazing. He did it. Signed in the mail. Shadow and Sweetie are fighting over there. It's coming tomorrow. It's not. I need you guys to understand that it's not. I have to constantly be the channel that corrects these individuals because they're not looking at the baseline figure of who's going to create it and then how's it going to be passed. There's no conversation right now with the Senate, with the House, that is dictating that people are going to get a fourth stimulus. And the thing beyond a fourth stimulus, right? The bigger thing than a fourth stimulus, which is UBI, Universal Basic Income, that ain't even, like, nobody even thinking about that. That's just not even on the books. That's not even in somebody's brain. There's no mind's eye that's going, well, maybe we should consider. There's none of that. So I think the problem that is happening here is a lot of you guys have a potential expectation. Not the expectation, but the potential of an expectation that there will be something coming out related to a fourth stimulus. There's nothing on the books for that. California, we know why they did that whole $600 bump. Are other states going to do that? Of course not. All right, next thing. The Stimulus Check 2021 petition. However, not everyone agrees with the idea that everything is fine and that there's no need for a fourth stimulus check. A petition on change.org has been launched titled $2,000 a month to every American, and it already has more than 2.6 million signatures. If it reaches 3 million, and it looks like it will, then it will become one of the best supported petitions on the website. I'm calling on Congress to support families with a $2,000 payment for adults and a $1,000 payment for kids immediately, and continuing regular checks for the duration of the crisis. The petition explained. Otherwise, laid-off workers, furloughed workers, and self-employed, the workers dealing with reduced hours will struggle to pay their rent or put food on the table. We need immediate checks and recurring payments so that we can keep our heads above water. Congress needs to make sure that we won't be left financially ruined by doing our part to keep the country healthy. The petition argues that a fourth round of stimulus checks is necessary because the unemployment numbers aren't what they seem, with many people underemployed, if not unemployed. Yeah, because we all know these unemployment figures are just a joke, right? Because unemployment doesn't consider all of the people that have stopped looking for a job. All the people that have stopped looking for a job, it's basically, they don't count them. They don't count them. So there's this massive gap in the statistic for unemployment that nobody really talks about much. Not good. Next section. If it happens, what is the fourth stimulus check release date? Nobody knows. None of us know. Nobody knows how much. Nobody knows when. Nobody knows how. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I can tell you about the acts that are out there to help increase the potential of it, but I can't tell you when it's going to happen. It should be reiterated that there are currently no plans for a fourth stimulus check, but if things were to take a turn and if Congress were to propose another round of stimulus spending, this would undoubtedly become a priority for all branches of government, and it could be passed in a couple of weeks. They're going to have to do something because the moratorium is potentially ending on the 31st of July. Then it's the 23rd of July right now. We're talking like a week. Then the IRS would work to send out the actual money, which would vary depending on the method of payment. That's because paper checks would take longer to reach recipients than electronic payments. Will I get a stimulus check for my child? If a fourth stimulus check comes to be, families with children will hope that the structure is similar to what it was for the third check, given all dependents qualify for the third stimulus check. That was regardless of the age and different from the first and second stimulus checks, when only child dependents under the age of 17 qualified for the payment. Considering that the third stimulus check was already during Biden's time as president, similar eligibility rules should be expected. All right. The point of this thing is relatively simple and straightforward. We should not expect a fourth stimulus check to be coming, but we should be vigilant in watching what the legislator wants to do. California coming out with $600, that is not a sign that we're going to get a fourth stimulus check as a nation. California is at times bankrupt, and the prior act heavily funded blue states like California and New York to boost them back to where they were prior to basically this pandemic issue. And if you will recall, California had a lot of problems because it was constantly in almost going bankrupt mode. So the problem is, albeit the federal government just shelled out lots and lots of money to them, their policies are going to unfortunately create a situation where they can't afford anything. And now they're giving out more money, which means that they're essentially trying to, and it looks like this, but I can't say it is, buy votes. So the problem now is that we have a system that is not looking out so much for the people, but we have a government that's looking out more so essentially for its own survival. If it's going to run out of money in October or November, then this government is not about funding the people. This government is about funding itself. In order to keep itself alive, which we need in order to fund the people, it's going to have to either raise the debt ceiling or create magic coins that it attributes value to or whatever. But the bottom line is, it all looks really bad. COLA, we now know, is going to be over 4s, over the 5%, into the 6%. Right? That's what the new articles are coming out with. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe the COLA will be in the 7s. Maybe the COLA will be in the 8s. Imagine if something was 10% more. A COLA of 10%. You go buy a thing of bread and it's 10% higher in cost. Just start to prepare. Potentially buy things that are going to help you through this process. Buy things that are, survival-y kind of stuff, because you never know what's going to happen with all this stuff. And I don't just mean generators and, dry moon food and whatever, but I mean just be smart, because it does look like the fan is about to enter the cow pasture. You know what I mean? And I just want you guys to be aware there are problems occurring here, and nobody really has total control over what's going to happen. There's not enough money for Congress to basically just bail itself out or raise the debt ceiling or whatever. We're not paying a lot of taxes right now, which means the IRS isn't collecting enough to pay out enough. I mean, you saw the news. President Biden wants to give $80 billion to the IRS to audit more people to get more money out of the people. This is unfortunately a government that is putting its fangs and its, claws out to try and figure out a way to survive this whole thing. Never forget, the U.S. government costs a lot of money to run, and the U.S. government can't pay its own bills. So, isn't it weird that the U.S. government never really goes bankrupt? And that's because we're the people who fund that company. You want to know the easiest way to make the U.S. government do what we want it to do? It's to control the money, which the people don't control. The government does. So anyways, guys, I'll catch you a little bit later. I hope all is well. I go live from 8 to 10 every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have an absolutely wonderful day. I will catch you a little bit later. If you would like the most up-to-date news, go ahead and reach out to me, and we'll go from there. Have a wonderful night, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.